The National Desk, America's News, now.
Deadly storms continue across the country. Hundreds of thousands without power, falling temperatures, and a warning of a repeat this weekend.
I think that Hunter Biden should be arrested right here, right now, and go straight to jail.
Hunter Biden makes a surprise visit to Capitol Hill. Coming up, the chaos that followed as the first son inches closer to charges of contempt of Congress.
The best solution to this situation not escalating is for the Houthis to stop these attacks.
And the largest attack by Houthi rebels expelled, but is a wider war just a matter of time? This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. At least 5 people are dead after severe storms ripped through large areas of the country this week, impacting more than half of the U.S. population. Communities are cleaning up the damage left by tornadoes in the southeast and flooding and extreme wind along the east coast. Heavy rain continued today in the northeast, and blizzard-like conditions remain in the Pacific Northwest. More than 250,000 people are still without power. More than 600 flights were canceled today and over 3,500 delayed. That's according to FlightAware.com. The storm is mostly out of the country right now, but a similar storm is on its way, forecast to hit many of the same places on Friday and Saturday. The southeast, it could see more tornadoes, more snow could slam the Midwest, and the East Coast will likely see more rain and high winds. It took nearly 8 hours, but the House Oversight Committee voted 25-21 to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress for failing to appear for a subpoenaed deposition in December and move for the vote to go to the full House now. Most of the day, members on the committee yelled at each other in heated debate. Republicans claiming Hunter is not above the law, while Democrats calling out Republicans who themselves did not answer Congress.
Hunter Biden's willful refusal to comply with the committee's subpoenas is a criminal act.
He agreed to appear precisely at a public hearing under oath to answer the committee's questions on December 13th. Exactly what our good colleagues, the Republicans who had information about January 6th, never agreed to do.
While that was expected, what wasn't was Hunter Biden making an appearance, setting off chaos today when he walked into the markup hearing this morning.
Who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question. Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed.
Hunter stayed in the committee for about 20 minutes before walking out to give a brief statement.
The Republican chairs today then are commandeering an unprecedented resolution to hold someone in contempt who has offered to publicly answer all their proper questions. The question there is, what are they afraid of?
Meanwhile, impeachment hearings began today specifically against the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. As Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, the initial move is causing controversy.
At America's southern border, a record number of immigrants overwhelming law enforcement. 1,700 miles away, Republicans trying to remove the man in charge.
Secretary Mayorkas has repeatedly lied to the American people and to the United States Congress. Our investigation uncovered more than 100 instances where Secretary Mayorkas misled the public.
Including Republicans said about having control of the border and used the words of Alejandro Mayorkas against him, contradicted by other officials.
Do we have operational control, yes or no?
Yes, we do.
Based upon the definition you have, sir, up there, no.
We don't have operational control.
No, sir.
Despite 300,000 trying to make it into the country just last month, Democrats claiming impeachment attempts are purely political.
It is now campaign season. Republicans want to throw political red meat to their base and keep that campaign cash coming.
But do constitutional grounds exist that allow for this type of impeachment? And does it open a Pandora's box for more widespread use of impeachments? under future administrations.
Whatever may be the grounds for impeachment and removal, dislike of a president's policy is certainly not one of them.
Regardless, state attorneys general demanding action.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I believe it is time for accountability. Illegal immigration costs Oklahoma taxpayers more than $750 million each year.
Since 2019, Montana's confirmed fentanyl overdose deaths have increased 1,700%. We know where these drugs are coming from. It's not a political statement of mine. It's not an opinion of mine to say that 100% of that fentanyl came from the Mexican drug cartels.
Now, we talked about grounds for impeachment, and one expert testified today that you have to show proof of treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. He said so far there's little evidence that Mayorkas qualifies in that respect. Amira.
And Scott, as you pointed out, we usually only associate impeachment proceedings with presidents. How rare is this that a cabinet member would be targeted?
Well, The Hill reporting this has only happened one other time in history, going all the way back to the 1800s during the administration of Ulysses S. Grant. But then again, calls for impeachment are becoming quite common here on the Hill and targeting people of various positions.
All right, Scott Thuman reporting for us in Washington, D.C. Thank you as always. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken continued his tour of the Middle East today, making a surprise visit to Bahrain to speak with King Hamad after meeting with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas this morning in Ramallah. Upon leaving Bahrain, Blinken said that in all of his stops, there was consensus that humanitarian aid needs to be given to the people of Gaza. But he reiterated Israel also needs to be sure that October 7th never happens again. He spoke about what a lasting peace could look like.
Efforts that countries around the region are clearly prepared to make based on the trip this week to bring countries together, to integrate the region, and to do so in a way that provides for the security of Israel and also provides a pathway for Palestinians to a state of their own.
Blinken is back in Israel tonight and will meet with the Egyptian prime minister tomorrow in Cairo. A delegation from Israel is there right now preparing to restart hostage negotiations. Last week's talks were halted after a senior Hamas leader was killed in an airstrike in Beirut. In the Red Sea, the U.S. Navy shot down at least 24 missiles launched by Houthi rebels in Yemen. The attack represents the largest single assault by the Houthis, and it comes as Secretary Blinken is in the region. Blinken repeated his warning that the world soon will act if this continues.
If these attacks continue, as they did yesterday, there will be consequences. Again, this represents a clear threat to the interests of countries around the world, and it's important that the international community come together and respond to them.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council is set to hold a vote today to demand a halt on these attacks. Not certain that a vote would lead to any deterrence. On December 22nd, the Security Council voted that Hamas must immediately release all hostages taken from Israel. No one has been released in that case, and no further actions have been taken by the Security Council on that matter. Meanwhile, the Iraqi prime minister says he wants United States armed forces out of the country. He's willing to negotiate the exit with the U.S., but sees American presence in his country as a threat to larger war in the region. U.S. bases in Iraq have been the target of many strikes by Iranian-backed militias, who in return have been targeted by the United States. No agreement nor timetable for redeployment of U.S. forces has been made. And new tonight, former President Trump will not be giving a closing argument tomorrow in the civil fraud trial against him. The judge has rescinded his approval after Trump's attorneys took issue with his limitations on what could be said. New York's Attorney General claims Trump exaggerated his net worth to help get business deals. Trump has denied any wrongdoing. And 6 drug smugglers will be prosecuted by the Justice Department after more than 2,400 pounds of cocaine were discovered yesterday. U.S. Coast Guard crews confiscated more than $32 million worth of cocaine from the smugglers in the Caribbean Sea in 2 separate seizures. The January 25th execution by nitrogen hypoxia of Kenneth Eugene Smith in Alabama is back on for now. A U.S. district judge denied Smith's request for an injunction. His lawyers argued using the procedure never before tried in the country would make him a test subject and would be cruel and experimental. The decision could be appealed, possibly further delaying the execution. Youth football in California could be nearing an end. New legislation to ban children 12 and under from playing organized tackle football was debated in Sacramento today. Advocates point to research showing tackle football causes brain damage, including serious conditions like CTE. Opponents, on the other hand, argue it cuts off kids' ability to participate in a popular sport and engage in physical activity. Other states, including New York and Illinois, have tried similar bans but failed. And coming up, a Republican has just dropped out of the 2024 race. Plus, new polling shows another GOP candidate could be catching up to the frontrunner. Then Americans continued their strong spending during the holidays, but that could change in the coming months. We'll take a look at the latest data. And later, the steps California's governor is taking to crack down on rampant crime in the state. We'll be right back. Chris Christie now out of the 2024 presidential race. The former New Jersey governor just made the announcement at a town hall in New Hampshire after facing pressure to end his bid. It comes before the last Republican presidential primary debate tonight, just days before the Iowa caucuses on Monday. CNN is set to host it at 9 Eastern in Des Moines, Iowa. Former President Donald Trump, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are the only ones who qualify for it. While Trump is the leading candidate, he plans to take part in a Fox News town hall instead. That will also be in Iowa at the same time as the debate. And looking ahead to the New Hampshire primary on January 23rd, support for Nikki Haley has jumped in new polling. A CNN poll run by the University of New Hampshire shows Haley at 32% and then Trump at 39%. Chris Christie had been in third. That means the gap between Haley and Trump has narrowed by 12 points since the last similar poll. The CEO of Boeing says mistakes were made leading up to the Alaska Airlines door blowout last week, and those mistakes, quote, can never happen again. Boeing President and CEO Dave Calhoun acknowledged this during a town hall staff meeting at the factory that makes 737 planes in Washington state. He didn't specify what the mistake was, but promised complete transparency every step of the way during the investigation. The National Transportation Safety Board has some questions.
I have a lot of questions on that statement. He stated that mistakes were made, and I'd like to understand what mistakes he's referring to.
The board is investigating the door plug and surrounding structures. A preliminary report is expected in about 3 to 4 weeks. It's a new year with a new economic outlook. The National Retail Federation out with fresh data showing retailers had a very strong holiday shopping season, but Americans are expected to pull back their spending in the coming months. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more on what's in store for 2024.
Economists agree. In 2023, the U.S. economy defied expectations and avoided a recession. A relief for American workers and consumers and for the White House.
Last year, forecasters said with 100% certainty that there would be a recession. That didn't happen.
A tight job market and robust consumer spending getting credit for the strong year. But can it be pulled off again in 2024 and achieve what economists call a soft landing, where inflation returns to a normal level without a painful economic slowdown? Bank of America thinks so, calling 2024 the year of the landing. Citibank predicts a slow start to the year, followed by an acceleration of economic activity, but no recession. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon is more skeptical.
Stock prices are up, consumers in good shape. But the extra money that they got during COVID, trillions of dollars, that's kind of running out.
He says a recession is still possible. However, he says he's more worried about fallout from wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. There are signs Americans are having to tighten their belts. 56 million people who have credit cards have carried debt for at least a year, according to a new survey by Bankrate.
What do we know about why so many people are in this position? How did we get here?
Credit card debt is one of these things that's easy to get into and hard to get out of, unfortunately. High interest rates are a part of the story. Right now, the average credit card charges a record high 20.74%.
Bankrate's Ted Rossman expects card balances to keep rising in 2024, but says the economy is in better shape than many acknowledge.
GDP growth has been good. The job market's been good. It just doesn't feel great because high inflation and higher interest rates are gobbling up a lot of people's wage gains.
We'll get an update on where that imbalance stands Thursday with the release of December's consumer inflation report. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Atra, thank you. Police have determined that Colorado Rep. Lauren Boebert did not punch her ex-husband, which he'd accused her of doing. Jason Boebert was involved in a dispute on Saturday with the Congresswoman at a restaurant. He was arrested yesterday and released. He is facing charges related to the altercation. The two divorced last year. California lawmakers are considering a new tax on big earners in the state. It comes as many Americans are leaving big cities due to high costs. The latest Census Bureau data showing California, New York, and Illinois lost the most population last year. More than 100,000 people left New York and more than 75,000 left California. Dozens of U.S. senators have signed on to a resolution supporting Taiwan's self-defense and liberty, supported by the United States power. This could be a cause for concern in Beijing, as yesterday China said they will never compromise or yield on Taiwan. This Saturday, Taiwan will hold presidential elections. The presumptive favorite and current Vice President William Lai says he wants Taiwanese independence. China calls him a separatist, and some fear a victory for Lai could lead to an invasion by China. The country's first Bitcoin exchange traded funds are now cleared by regulators. The Securities and Exchange Commission approving 11 new ETFs today. The move could greatly increase investment in the digital currency and help the crypto industry that's been plagued by multiple scandals. And Amazon is laying off hundreds of employees in Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios today. It comes after the company let go of more than 27,000 workers last year, all part of widespread tech industry layoffs over the last couple of years. Amazon says they're now focusing on the most impactful content. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's diagnosis of prostate prostate cancer has specialists reminding all of us about the importance of early detection. Medical reporter Liz Bonus shares one reason many men may not be getting the routine testing they need.
It is a simple blood test that can help with early detection of prostate cancer. And to get it, you may have to ask your family doctor to order it. It is called a PSA, or prostate-specific antigen. PSA is a protein made by your prostate, a gland in the male reproductive system. A high PSA level may be caused by prostate cancer.
Unfortunately, over the last 10 years or so, we've seen that it is not necessarily commonplace or done routinely with family doctors. Some PCPs and internists are choosing not to do PSA testing every year. And sometimes the patient doesn't realize that. They don't realize that it's not been done.
Dr. Brooke Edwards, the chief medical officer at Ohio's Urology Group, says a PSA not only can help with cancer discovery, it can help monitor prostate cancer over time. Steve Abbott has been living with this illness for more than a decade. He says it's scary if you start to see a number climb.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. It is. I mean, but I will say this, particularly being a prostate cancer patient and seeing some of the things that have taken place over the last just 10 years since I was diagnosed, I do have a bit of faith now that there is the next thing coming along.
His PSA can help guide that treatment. But some providers no longer routinely test PSA. So both Steve and Dr. Edwards say you need to be your own advocate.
I'm often seeing my patients yearly, and they think that their family doctor has done it, but they just don't quite understand that that was not included in their cholesterol screening and their regular blood testing. So it's important for patients to understand that they need to realize and go through with the doctor's ordering and having that conversation and asking about prostate cancer or PSA testing.
Now, as for who should ask for this test, the CDC says all men are at risk for prostate cancer, but African-American men are more likely to get prostate cancer than others. Out of every 100 American men, about 13 will get prostate cancer in a lifetime. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Thank you, Liz. And coming up, a 6-year-old chess player that's better than most adults. Just how good when we come back. We have reporters all across the country covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
A tragedy in Williamson County as Seth Carnes is in custody tonight for the murder of his parents, former District Judge Bert Carnes and his wife Susan. The loss of the judge who served on the 368th Judicial District Court of Texas with decades of practice shaking the Central Texas community.
It's hard to put into words how much Judge Carnes meant to the legal community in Central Texas.
Rick Kofer, a Central Texas attorney, knew Carnes and says he had argued a case just last year in front of him.
He was known as a law and order judge. Some would say a throw the book at him type judge. I always found him to be thoughtful, to be kind.
countless reports of organized retail crime, smash and grabs, and car thefts.
We need to hold them accountable.
Tulare County Sheriff Mike Boudreaux, who is also the president of the California State Sheriff's Association, says he has been working to make that happen by pushing to make amendments to Proposition 47 and 57.
As a sheriff, I work with Assembly and senators in the governor's office on a regular basis.
Governor Gavin Newsom's office put out this press release Tuesday, signaling an effort to crack down on property crime.
Checkmate?
Yes.
Yeah, he checkmated me again.
A Columbus kindergartner has talents far beyond his years. 6-year-old Mehmet Yalani is among the best chess players in the country. He recently took home the Kindergartner National Chess Championship at National Grade Level Chess Tournament. His dad is his practice partner, although he admits the 6-year-old typically dominates their matches. Well, coming up, NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers has been kicked off a show on ESPN. We'll tell you why on the other side. NFL QB Aaron Rodgers will no longer be on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN. Rodgers was contracted to be on through the NFL playoffs. The controversial quarterback has made a lot of comments that have drawn ire, most recently suggesting late-night host Jimmy Kimmel could be connected to the Jeffrey Epstein documents, of which there is no established connection. McAfee himself says he supports the decision. There will be a lot of people who are happy with that, myself included, to be honest with you. The way it ended, it got really loud. I am happy that he's not going to be in my mentions going forward, which is great news. More people, by the way, tuned in to watch NFL games this year than last year. According to Nielsen figures, NFL regular season games averaged 17.9 million viewers. That's tied for the second highest since tracking began in 1995 and a 7% increase from last season. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. I'm Amira David, and thank you so much for watching.